Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe Show, a spin-off of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, we are keeping up with Canada. And as promised, I'm bringing a couple more positive stories to the show today because I have noticed it's been very political and very government corruption and creepy and shitty stories, and I thought, okay, I need to take a break and I need to find some positives, which unfortunately wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But I did find some, and I'm really excited to share those with you today. But also, I'm going to be bringing up a really disgusting story because this is literally in our backyard in Kelowna, and I am so absolutely disgusted with our justice system, and I am creeped the fuck out about what happened here recently. And so I'm going to do kind of like an Oreo situation here. We're going to have a great story, a gross story, and we're going to end with a great story, or at least a greatness out of tragedy situation that we've already covered here on the show. So if you are interested in hearing some positive of what's going on in Canada, with just one really super disgusting one in the middle, then stick around and we'll jump right in. All right, babes, as mentioned, I've looked back over the last 9 weeks or so that I have been doing this segment on YouTube since season 9 has launched in the podcast, running side by side here with the YouTube channel. I've noticed that it's been very creepy and dark and political, and although I do like reporting all those things because I think it's important, I also don't want to be like mainstream media and just constantly bring negative stuff or constantly have political stuff as well. I am not a political streamer or like full commentator. I do like to talk about it because it is happening in our country and I think things are important to talk about. However, I don't want that to be my entire identity and all of my content. I really want to be bringing you guys stories from across Canada, whether they're good, bad, corrupt, or creepy. So I'm going to make sure to keep that tone going forward. And today is going to be the start. At least today, it's going to be kind of like I said, an Oreo effect. But before we jump into this, I just want to side trail for a second here on two stories or two things that caught my eye that I kind of wanted to bring up, but decided to dial back on for several reasons. But first, I wanted to send hopes and prayers and thoughts to everyone that is being, affected by the two missing children in Nova Scotia. I'm sure most of you know by now what is going on up here in Canada on the East Coast. There are two children missing. There is 4-year-old Jack and 6-year-old Lily that are missing from Pictou County in Nova Scotia. They've been missing, allegedly was called in last Friday, May 2nd. And as of recording today, Saturday, they have not been found. There is a lot of episodes and information out there, especially on TikTok, about the situation. And as much as I have been glued to my phone, keeping up to date with this, at this point, I'm not sure if speaking about it and me adding my thoughts and opinions right now will be helpful. So I'm just going to sit back and send my love and prayers and hopes and stay up to date. And once more things come out, I definitely am going to talk about it once we know more. But right now, with all the speculation, I just don't want to add to it. And I just want everyone to go to the content creators that have been following this very closely, closer than I have been. Like I said, I'll link a couple in the description box, but you just have to search up Nova Scotia missing children, and it's everywhere, you guys. Leave a picture right here quickly as well, just because this is everywhere. So just in case, but like I said, just want to give my love and thoughts, and just gonna sit back and observe this one. And secondly, I also seen something on Threads, which I didn't realize how political Threads was. I'm not really on there. I just kind of signed up for it because I always get suckered when it says like those captivating ones in the middle of your Instagram feed, and you're like, well, what else does this have to say? And it always gets me. So that is literally the only reason why I got Threads, is just so I could open it up when I'm curious. But I didn't realize how political and how it's kind of like just another X or Twitter. Like that's what it kind of seems like. But anyways, there was one posting, and this is where I think it's important on both sides before you spread stuff. And this is why I'm going to be slowing down on when I report stuff, because I kind of want to wait for more things to come out a little bit about certain things. But I also encourage everyone, when you see something, to go and look at it deeper, because it's very easy for people to crop stuff. In this day and age, there's so many ways that people can make it look like there's text messages. There's tons of ways to alter images, videos, anything now, right? So you have to be a little bit more cautious. So one of the ones, and I'm not saying this just because I voted for Pierre and I'm obviously conservative, but it was basically saying that they were starting a GoFundMe, the MP that gave up his seat, this is the only political thing I'll talk about, that actually gave up his seat, that they started a GoFundMe because he got his seat stolen by Pierre. So I was like, hey, well, if this is true, this is kind of silly. Like, unless if he's starting it, sounds like he makes decent money and he decided to give it up. So, but if someone else made it for him, like, how can you be mad if someone makes someone else a GoFundMe? Like, that's not really that person's fault. So then I went and looked up GoFundMe, Give, Send, Go. There was ones that were set up for him, but they weren't for him. And it just sounds like fans that want to try and help make him money because he won't be making as much as he was going to. And so I think it's really important on both sides, before we flame the fire and make it worse, let's just check in. And my side included. I called out last time when conservatives were saying that Prime Minister Carney's wife said that she's going to make Canada poor. She said for, which is French is strong. So, and I believe she has an accent, right? So that was taken out of context. And again, we should have looked into that before we reacted, myself included. So yeah, that was just one thing that I thought interesting, but those aren't very big topics. I just wanted to kind of, sorry, that's such a lie. Nova Scotia one is a huge topic, but there are many creators over the last week that have done such an amazing job on reporting on all of this. But today, like I said, let's do this little Oreo effect here, okay? So we're going to get a good one, and then we're going to get a gross one that's very close to home for me here. And then we'll end with another positive outcome from a massive tragedy we've talked about already. 2 nonprofits aim to end homelessness in Whitehorse with new youth program community plan. Safe at Home Society launching youth outreach program. Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition facilitates an action plan. Love to see this. Ottawa is giving the Safe at Home Safety $3.4 million for youth programming that's aimed at combating homelessness in Whitehorse. The new program will target youth aged 16 to 24 at risk of homelessness or in unsafe housing arrangements. Safe at Home Executive Director Kate Mmmm said, "Disenfranchised youth are underserved and often forgotten in a lot of work that happens in the relation to housing," said Mmmm. Sorry if I butchered your name. She said the society, which was established in 2020, hasn't had enough youth-focused programming. Oh, I love this. The funding agreement runs until 2029. The money is coming from the Federal Crime Prevention Action Fund. This is what our government should be putting money into. Bravo. We give due where there's due, you know what I'm saying? More than half of people surveyed in a 2024 point-in-time count in Whitehorse said their first experience of homelessness occurred before they were 20. If we prevent youth homelessness, we have a higher likelihood of preventing experience of homelessness later in life, Mmmm said. The new program will hire 2 youth outreach workers, a community and cultural liaison, and an employment and recreational coordinator. It will also fund recreation and career training for at-risk youth. Mmmm said hiring staff is the major bottleneck right now. She's expecting the design and implementation phase to last up to a year. Whitehorse getting a revamped plan to end homelessness. The Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition is also working on a new plan to end homelessness. The first plan, which was published in 2017, involved all levels of government and people with lived experience, but it only accomplished 15 out of 76 action items, the coalition said. It was a really exciting kind of new way of doing things, but it didn't have the impact that we hoped because there weren't clear and measurable outcomes or goals attached, said Maddie Porter, project lead with the coalition. That's why the coalition is doing a do-over. It invited the same governing bodies to the table, including the Yukon government, City of Whitehorse, the Kwalindun First Nation, to rewrite the goals and take responsibility for them. We want to have a collective ownership of the plan, Porter says. Kwalindun I'm so sorry if I butchered that. Chief Sean Smith said there are major gaps in the program and service delivery in the Yukon that needed to be addressed. Smith says the First Nation will bring the experience of its frontline staff to the table. There's also the possibility of developing First Nation-owned land into supportive or semi-supportive housing. In return, other agencies might have resources to combat some of the root causes of homelessness, he said. Smith said that the coalition said the plan needs accountability frameworks. He wants the advisory board to meet regularly. Then we can identify what we can be responsible for and how we can flow resources, whether it's dollar or capacity on the ground to help support people, he said. The advisory board is planning outreach this month to shelters, service providers, business owners, and frontline workers, as well as people with lived experience. There's also a community survey. The deadline is to finish the plan in late June. I don't know, guys, that sounds awesome. I don't know, like, it's really great because it sounds like maybe there's already like framework, but perhaps when they tried this before, perhaps they didn't have the right funding or the right people in place, and now it sounds like they're bringing all like a collective together to combat homelessness up in Whitehorse, and I think that's incredible. I think it's so beautiful to see the children being reached out to, because I can imagine, like they said, if you start at a young age experiencing homelessness, I imagine that, I'm not saying it's not impossible. We've seen a lot of people, of course, get off there, but I imagine it's something that perhaps you face a little bit more often until you can get yourself on the ground, because perhaps those support systems aren't in place for you. And now it sounds like perhaps there's going to be some more in Whitehorse. So I hope we can see how this works together and how all these different groups are coming together to form this coalition. I'm very excited to see where it goes, and if it works well, if we can mimic that in other places around Canada as well. So just again, having the conversations of what's the root cause, why is this happening, how can we help people, I think is so great, on top of funding it. I'm never saying that funding is not a good thing, it's not needed, but to just throw money at things sometimes, it doesn't always work. You need goals, you need people to be in it, you need to be, like we said, meeting regularly, holding yourselves accountable to get those things done. So it's really exciting to see progress for that. And again, going to look forward to watching this as the months progress and see what they come up with. And hopefully it's super successful and it's something that we can see throughout the rest of the country. Now, all right, I don't want to talk about this, but I do want to talk about this because I talk about child grooming quite often on the podcast and on the show. And I've talked about teachers being creepy before, and how I feel like because of the internet, they've definitely got more access. And I feel like, and I hate using the word grooming because I feel like it has been taken out of context and used very loosely, but this does happen. And coming from someone who's experienced that as a young adult, I think I get really fired up about these, and that's why I feel like I need to defend and share this. And not only that, this is in our fucking backyard, Kelowna. This is in our backyard. I lived in Rutland. This is in Rutland. And I just really wanted to make sure, if you didn't see this or didn't know about this here in Kelowna, because we know how we're not allowed to share the news in Canada. Hopefully that doesn't keep going here. I thought this was a really important story. So let's dive into the disgusting one, and then we'll end. I promise. We'll go back to a more positive one. Promise. Okay. Look at this face. Kelowna teacher found not guilty of child luring. We'll be the judge of that. A Kelowna teacher who sexually sent explicit messages to a teen may have been acting creepy, but without the intention to follow through, his choices weren't criminal, a judge ruled Monday. Judge Kathleen Henricks on Monday found former Rutland Secondary School teacher Jeffrey Jennings not guilty of luring a child by telecommunication. Crown has the obligation to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, not a balance of probability, that the purpose of Mr. Jennings' text message was to facilitate the commission of the offense of sexual touching in the future, Henrik said. I find that on the evidence of Mr. Jennings, I am left with a reasonable doubt about his intention. What? A multi-day trial seems to hinge on messages Jennings sent to a teenage student May 12, 2023. Jennings told the teen during a late-night Instagram chat that she turned him on a lot and that he wanted to see her breasts. He also said, I like seeing you in a miniskirt, and I like it when you touch my knee, and I like it when you talk about my lamp, which is, if you can't see the screen, cack. Another message on the same thread said, I saw your story coming out of the shower with the censorship sign over your breast, and I wanted to see them, he said. There was a steam on the mirror, and I wanted there to be no steam. While his lawyer, Karen Basto, indicated that the messages were unusual, she said that these comments were offered as a part of some greater teaching moment about the risks of posting provocative photos online, and he didn't intend to have sexual relationship with the students. Are you fucking kidding me? The line of reasoning, sometimes I read these articles and sometimes I don't. I just skim through. So some of these details I don't really see because I'm like, well, this is disgusting enough to talk about it. So we're live reacting to some of this. The line of reasoning seemingly was not implausible to Henricks. Mr. Jennings wrote the message quickly without thinking about how they might sound, she said, reflecting testimony Jennings gave. His plan was to explain them after he had shocked the student and help the student understand what could come of her Instagram content. Everything went quickly and he was not paying attention. There is some sense to his explanation, even if it does not entirely line up. Henrik said that Jennings' testimony was clear and consistent when he explained that his teaching moment was taken out of context, Henricks found. The prosecutor highlighted months of messages between the two, pointing out that they transversed appropriate boundaries both in context and in the time in whence they were sent. Starting in October 2022 and carrying on regularly until the incident in May 2023, Jennings and the students spoke about everything from outfits to breakup, playing video games, and the need for emotional support. Some conversations were in the afternoon, but some or others were as late as 11 p.m. This apparently casual way of interacting wasn't totally out of character from how he behaved with all of his students and didn't indicate nefarious intent, the judge found. Jennings was removed from his position shortly after the May 2023 incident and is currently employed at the school district. His own lawyer remarked during the trial that he will never teach again. No fucking shit! Is this a joke? This has to be a joke. This can't be real. This can't be real. This can't be real. Okay, like I knew some of it. I read the inappropriate comments and the text message. I didn't know how deep that went. Okay, talked about this before on the show when I talked about teachers in Canada that were being perverts. And this is just another one. But this one again is here and he's in school. Get out. You shouldn't be. I don't even care. Take your fucking phone away. Okay, I know, whatever. But like at the end of the day, this is disgusting. Please tell me in what world is that appropriate to say to any student? Not alone one message, two messages, but how do we know what messages were deleted? How do we know that they don't have something on Snapchat? How do we know that things didn't get worse? Like, did they actually go and search any of his stuff? Like, this is completely inappropriate in my opinion. Okay? Just a Canadian, just a girly here, but this is absolutely inappropriate. And if you are a teacher, please listen, what benefit do you have having a type of relationship with a student like that? Please tell me what need you have to have that. I think that is completely inappropriate. If a child needed help, you send them to a school counselor and they do it in an appropriate space. You do not talk to them on Instagram. You do not talk to them at 11 p.m. at night. You do not talk to them when you're supposed to be teaching students during the day. This is so fucking inappropriate, and I do not know why it's not called out more. I do not know how a woman could sit there and look at this and say, well, I don't think he intended to. It was a teaching moment. Not his fucking place. Not his place. Reach out to the parents. Something like that. But he was trying to warn her and educate her of how creeps operate. That's the take we're going to take from this. That he was trying to pretend to be a creep to have a teachable moment. Absolutely not. Absolutely fucking not. This is why I always don't want to talk about gross stuff, because it gets my heart rate through the fucking roof. And it's because I have been a teenager with very inappropriate adults doing really inappropriate things. I understand how terrifying and how confusing it is at the same time. It's fucking gross. Period. Just my opinion. Okay. Gross one over, okay? Switch gears. So a couple episodes ago, we talked about the vicious attack that happened in Vancouver at the Lapu-Lapu festival, where the Filipino community comes together and they celebrate. Beautiful time, family there, everything. And it unfortunately ended in tragedy in one of Canada's worst trauma situations that we've ever seen. There was an arrest made. Things are happening, but there was... And I know this always sounds weird to say that there's a positive that came out of this, but I actually found a story that I thought was super beautiful that I wanted to share to end this episode after I raged there for a minute. So this one's coming out of the National Post. BC teen who lost family and Lapu-Lapu Day tragedy donates $2,666,000 from GoFundMe page to other victims. Andy Lee, 16, lost his father Richard Lee, stepmom Lynn Huan, 30, and sister Katie Lee, 5. A BC teen who lost his parents and sister in the attack during the Lapu-Lapu Day festival in Vancouver last Saturday has donated $266,000 raised from the GoFundMe page to other victims. Andy Lee, 16, lost his father Richard Lee, 47, stepmom Ling Huang, 30, and sister Katie Lee, 5, after a driver allegedly rammed his SUV into a festival, killing 11 people. So they were 3 out of the 11. The annual event celebrates Filipino culture. Lee was not there because he had decided to stay home to do his homework. The GoFundMe page was set up to raise money for Andy, the only surviving family member. In a YouTube clip shared on the fundraising page, which had raised over $392,800, Andy said, "I would like to thank everyone who has donated to my GoFundMe campaign, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I know that many of the other families are hurting too, which is why I'd like to donate $266,000 to other victims from my GoFundMe campaign. I want to continue living with my grandparents who have helped raise me and truly love me. Thank you all so much for your support," he added. Tone Lee, who set up GoFundMe page, confirmed to CBC Vancouver that sibling Richard, Andy's father, Lynn, and Katie died in the attack. Andy's entire life was changed overnight. Katie, who had just finished preschool, was the youngest confirmed victim who died in the attack. She was the life of the party. She was always so cheerful and happy. She always wanted to play with her cousins. We're going to miss her so much. Paying tribute to Richard Lee, Tone wrote on the GoFundMe page that his brother was a dedicated father, badminton and tennis coach, and a real estate professional. He devoted his life to teaching young people the values of sportsmanship and team spirit. He served his community and clients with pride, always went out of his way to help others. He wrote that Andy's stepmother was known for her kindness and gentle spirit. She had been planning a visit to see her family in Vietnam. Vancouver police arrested Kai Jin Adam Lowe, 30, at the scene of the incident on Saturday. He was charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, though police later said that they anticipate additional charges will be laid in the coming weeks. New donations on the GoFundMe page were Andy disabled after raising $542,646. An update on the page says its intention was to raise money to cover the funeral costs for Lynn, Richard, and Katie, as well as to help pay for Andy's education because he lost his dad, who was the sole provider of the family, and was going to pay for his university costs. Once all costs related to this matter are accounted for, the remaining balance money will be donated to charity. Angel teenager. Meanwhile, both GoFundMe and the Filipino Consulate General in Vancouver have been warning of fraudulent fundraising efforts by some people to make money off the tragedy by soliciting funds. The Consulate General said it found campaigns claiming to raise money for victim family using an image of the consulate's official message, but it has not created or sanctioned any fundraising efforts. GoFundMe created a hub of verified fundraisers for the victims. The BC government declared Friday, May 2nd, the Provincial Day of Remembrance, a mourning of the victims of the attack. What an absolute selfless human being. It just has to be a testament to his parents and his family of how they raised him and how, well, for one, staying home to do homework. He must be getting ready for university and, to miss a fun festival with your family and friends and community, to focus on your schooling, and then to see the community come together and put that much money towards him and supporting him and trying to make sure that all the expenses are covered and he's supported to go to university is beautiful. And the fact that they've raised even more than they can imagine, that he's donating it to other families, is just what makes me proud to be Canadian, and why I wanted to share that, because I thought that was unreal and was going to share it, but it sounds like it's closed down now. But also to just be careful when you are looking at those things. Make sure, like I said earlier, the other GoFundMe that they say that the Conservative MP was running, he's not running. It's just fans. So you have to be really careful. Unfortunately, there's shitty people out there and they're going to take advantage. That's why I'm very pro going to the direct person. Like, what is your email? I'm just going to email transfer you so you get all the funds. Not that you can do that for strangers, but for me, I generally like to donate money directly if I can, versus a platform like that. Not only that, but they also take a cut. So it's I'd rather them get the whole amount. However, it is beautiful that we can do this, because you don't know all these people, and sometimes you're just generous strangers that want to help, and this is a beautiful way to be able to do that. So I just thought that was a great way to finish the episode instead of the creepy one, which I think we should all be paying attention to. But also at the same time, just thanks Canadians for always coming together and standing behind when there are tragedies like this that happen, because it really, really shows how much there might be chaos and craziness and bullshit in the world and fucked up people, but there's also very many beautiful, wonderful people out there that are wanting to always help the community and be a part of it, part of the solution, not part of the problem. But hopefully you guys like this episode. I hope it was a lot more upbeat. Like I said, I will be keeping my eye on what's going on in Nova Scotia. I also find that it's super interesting that May 2nd is a day of remembrance now for what's happening in Vancouver. And on the other side, on May 2nd, those 2 children went missing. So it's kind of an interesting day of remembrance of those that are no longer here with us, and hopefully, like we said, we find some answers that are happening to Lily and Jack out in Nova Scotia. But that is it for this episode, you guys. I'm going to try not to be as crazy political. Like I said, I think I want to continue doing a bunch of different things in one episode. Let's have something positive, let's have some corruption, and let's have some political. So I don't want my identity and I don't want to be mainstream media by always bringing in the bad things, and I don't want to always just be political because that gets exhausting too. I don't niche down. I don't like get into, I just want to do all of it. So hopefully I can bring some good energy and good vibes, and we could get back to being a happy Canada. And I really hope when I'm going to search for positive stories that I'll be able to find more and more in the coming months. Obviously I'm always skeptical, but I'm going to search for you guys. We have some more positive, but I really appreciate you guys for sticking around. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you want to find me on Fridays, you can find me on the Be Real Babe podcast over on Spotify, Rumble, or Apple. And then you can find the Be Real Babe show on Mondays, where I talk about keeping up with Canada and what's going on in our country. On Wednesdays, I have Internet Insanity, where I find interesting and fucked up things on the internet to bring you. And that's it. You can find me 3 days a week. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.